They sold it in January of the following year, but they had to buy, they had already paid for their whole $5,000 license for that next year. The new owner also had to buy the $5,000 license. And there was nothing we could do to provide any relief for the previous owner. And I found it just as side of criminal, because I can understand if it was 11 months into the year. But some kind of provision for a pro rata refund, or have a provision where an applicant can bring a specific situation before the council or before the alcohol review board. No, that was a licensee moving from one place to another, but it was the same licensee. In this case, it was a previous owner.
I remember that.
It was a liquor store, right?
Yeah, it was Virginia Curve.
Yeah.
Virginia Grove, yeah.
And it just, it was a lot of money,
So 1 month of sales.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what we can do about having some kind of provision for relief in a situation like that. Every situation is unique, and this may never happen again. But for me, as a business owner, it really, it made me feel bad that we had no vehicle by which to give this man any relief.
And I think if it's written, it needs to be written that mayor and council have to give them the permission to do that, or give the refund, or whatever it is.
Well, what direction are you leaning more towards, having it be transferable or refundable?
Transferable would accomplish the same thing, but I would think the transfer would have to be approved.
Yeah, we would definitely have to amend the ordinance.
But again, we'd have to make sure,
Doesn't-
but we'd have to make sure that we didn't open the door up for any kind of sham applicant.
Yeah,
And
I'm worried about
You would
transferable.
have to heavily regulate.
I would almost think
I'd rather
that
do refundable.
provision refundable, based upon council / ARB approval. I don't know how we're gonna wind up on
Whatever.
who approves what, but
And that's
somehow having,
contingent on the continued operation within a certain period by a second party. Because let's just say someone closes the business and there is no one else to come in.
I think you're just out of money.
right.
Yeah, I think if there's a transfer and it remains open under somebody else's name, then some discretion is to look at it. Because like I say, the sales probably, they were trying to get it done in December and just didn't quite make it. Excuse me. I saw something.
When I pay my
I'll
occupational
talk about
tax,
that.
what period, Jennifer, what period is it for?
John?
The occupational tax, am I paying for what I've done or toward the future?
Future.
You report your taxes from the previous year.
But I'm paying,
The license fee is for the coming year.
so if I go out of business right after that, I spend so many hundreds of dollars, and I'm just saying, there's more than just liquor involved here. This happens with a lot of businesses possibly. I'm not saying we shouldn't consider it, but it opens a huge door for, I just paid this.
But your average business license is not that expensive,
Mine is, I make millions.
But,
Expensive to me.
yeah, but in the realm of things, an average business, I'm talking about
Understand.
$600 or $700 versus $5,000 for a liquor license. There's a lot of difference between that.
I get that, and I know it's a privilege and all that to sell liquor. It's not a privilege to sell food.
It is a privilege because you sell it very well.
Well, thank you.
Brew pubs. Brew pubs are not in our ordinance at all.
Yes, and I'm actually glad you brought that up. That relates to, brew pubs,
That's a
catering
good one.
license. There are several definitions in state code
Okay.
that are missing, that are not in your definition section for Hapeville. So essentially what you have is you have, I think, 6 or 7 definitions that are consistent with state code. You have about 10 definitions that need to be updated to be compliant with state code. So these are things that have to be updated, just to make the definition lawful. And then you have several definitions that are missing, where if you did include those definitions, it would generate the discussion on whether we want to regulate these. I don't know if you want to have those definitions included first and then to let us know which of those provisions you would like to further expound on in your code, or if you would like us to just update those definitions and include wholesale, just general provisions that relate to those definitions, and then have you tell us which ones to remove.
Do any of those other types or categories have different food sale, alcohol sale percentages, or is state pretty consistent on like a 50-50?
I have not seen any inconsistency with percentages. The inconsistency that I've seen primarily has been with for example, defining wine or defining beer, the percentage of alcohol. But as far as the percent food versus alcohol sales, that would be something, I haven't seen any inconsistency there, and that would just be at your discretion, just, advising us whether you think that what we have in there is something that you want to keep, or whether you want us to adjust those figures somewhat.
I heard that Alpharetta just redid their brew pub ordinance, so I'd like to look at that one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The city of Alpharetta.
I have one question here. When they get an alcohol license, say in March, do we prorate it by month, or we do? Okay, that's what it says here. I thought for some reason we did. Okay, thank you.
Did I miss anything?
We were
Talk about brew
discussing
pubs.
lowering the fines for marijuana,
Oh,
just $15.
well, you might as well open it up for everything.
I think we could attract more millennials
There we go.
and old rock and rollers.
You could have your like special parking spot out in front of the PD for your dealing section, so you can make it safe. You can have your
Like that Craigslist,
and then you can
Craigslist. Sort of moving heavy debt.
location.
Years ago, our city,
Put on the news for something good.
that's true. When we drafted the original ordinance, our city attorney's name was Murray Weed. And he was running for council in Peachtree City. And his sign said, "Win with weed." And he noticed an abundance of his signs being stolen. High school kids down in Peachtree City were stealing the signs.
Vote for weed.
Win with weed. Win with weed.
Or vote for weed.
We'll bring that up at another time. There's another city that did that. What city was it that lowered the?
Clarkston.
Clarkston.
Yeah.
You can now publicly walk around.
Interesting. What's that?
So you can now publicly walk around with it like you're trying to pass a public drinking ordinance.
Okay.
I think it's like a $25 fine. You may just write through it.
Just don't let GSP catch you.
Right.
Because they won't be as nice.
Right.
I would really back that.
I've read along with this stuff. Okay.
Read about it.
That's a good thing.
I was a child in the 70s, been there, done that. I had a t-shirt made out of cannabis, but it
So
disappeared.
just procedurally, just a question to follow this ping pong ball.
You having a hard time following
On
this?
the, yeah, a little bit, just a small bit.
Just wait till we do that.
Open container versus special, times, was there any direction on that? Or do we just,
I think basically the open container is going to be acceptable in the art overlay area all the time, and then everywhere during special events.
16 ounces or less.
Yeah.
Paper and
Basically like
plastic
this
only.
event.
No glass, no cans.
okay, so the ordinance you're quoting from is which?
Probably more akin to Savannah.
So then I know
Yeah,
Roswell.
okay, so we need to look to Savannah for those guidelines.
I know Roswell has a good one
Bring
too
you back some
for
options.
open container.
Savannah restricts it by streets,
Yeah.
so it basically restricts it to River Street for all
Yeah,
intents and
we'll
purposes.
bring you back some options. I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear on what it is you want us to look at.
And I want to make sure that if we do, open container, that we hit all the restaurants that are kind of open now and ones that might be open in the near future. You know, if we're looking farther down North Avenue and that kind of stuff, making sure that we're connecting everything and connecting maybe Arch's Brewery.
How far up does our overlay go?
It goes all the way
North
to-
Avenue.
To North Avenue goes all the way.
Beyond North Avenue, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's down to the neighborhoods.
Okay, does it go down toward, on the other side of North Central, on the other side of Dogwood? I'd have to look
Yeah,
at
it
it.
goes all the way to Willingham, to the end of the city, basically.
On both sides of
No,
Central?
75, it doesn't go towards
That far.
75 as far.
Okay. But on North Central, it goes down toward 85.
South Central.
But how
I
about
don't know
North
how
Central?
far on North Central, I'd have to look at
Because we know the Omni restaurant supply there.
We'll make sure we.
It goes all the way down there.
We'll make
Includes
sure
the
we-
mansion,
There's a
right?
map right over there.
I can't see that far away.
Me neither. I got
We'll
my
make sure we
glasses on.
include the map.
Even my glasses on, I can't see that far away.
Me neither.
I mean, that's a
It is
big
a-
area.
Is it that color there?
That could
It's
happen.
it's not on that.
It's not on
It's
that
not on
map.
that.
That might
It's
be-
not on that map. We'll provide you a copy of
Okay.
that.
Okay. And maybe we can limit it at certain streets on both sides, and maybe limit it on Dogwood.
Yeah, because you open it up to the neighborhoods and then that's gonna.
No, you don't want to open it.
No, I don't
That's
want
when we create our.
I don't want to walk around in there.
I thought it was gonna be special events, so if you're gonna do it regularly, yeah, I would rather start small and then expand. I mean, consider that anyway. Our intense downtown district and maybe Virginia Avenue, I just would be careful.
Okay,
I like to see it
I'd
go
rather
down.
grow it than try to shrink
Yeah.
it.
I like to see it go down Dogwood to hit Arches.
But
Yeah,
then,
make-
but, you know, then look at Hilton, you know, from Hilton down to Johnny's and over in that area, because there's already a lot of walking traffic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not neighborhoods though. I mean, I'm understanding, yeah, Virginia I can see,
Right,
Central I
right,
can
right,
see,
right.
some of
But not-
those.
not
But the
creeping
art
into the
overlay, I
neighborhood.
think is a little broader.
Yeah.
We better look at that one more time.
Dave, do you have concerns?
Yeah.
I hear you. I see you.
That's what we do.
Can you?
Mr. Economic Development.
I'll give you
Sure.
just my opinion on this. I think we need,
It's
is it
a,
on? I think we need to be careful personally that we don't start out with this huge, because I don't know that we really want all people to feel like Savannah every Friday and Saturday night with hordes of people walking along with drinks. And to me, I would say that you start off with one that's just centered right in the middle of downtown. So that, you know, the alley that we've got that's really cool, you can do that, come out of the back of Beer Girl and go to Valore. And then when we have events, which could be fairly often, you can carry it across to the park back and forth. But I mean, I just have these concerns that if we become the drinking spot for Metro Atlanta, that's not gonna be what we're not gonna accomplish what you're hoping to accomplish with it. And if you're going all the way down the Arts Overlay to Willingham Drive and way up Dogwood Drive, and there are no restaurants and people just wandering around drinking drinks, it just concerns me.
Yeah.
well, in the park, you can have parents and kids, and, I mean, is this set for a certain time of day, or can they be Saturday afternoon? just
Well,
wandering?
there are, if you look at the model ordinances from other municipalities, there's one here from Macon, that talks about the times
Yeah.
and the districts on certain Saturdays as designated by the mayor, which designations should only occur. I don't want to be the one making that decision, but, you know, it could tie to a special event.
And to me, if you've got, like on Friday and Saturday night, you can do it in the middle of the downtown, so people can go from the Corner Tavern down the alley and into Beer Girl and go to the
Valore,
theater.
make a loop around there.
Valore, you know, in that little area, then that becomes kind of a fun place where people go, and it's sort of limited. And then if you're having, you know, the downtown lives, you know, maybe it's an expanded area so that you can get something in Beer Girl and walk across the tracks and go in there.
I think that's what we're trying to accomplish
Yeah.
is
And my thought is, if you make the one that's most of the time smaller and it's a defined area, and that just works great, then you can add 2 more blocks to it, or 3 more blocks, or the whole Arts Overlay. But I'm afraid if you just open up this huge swaths of the city to where people can buy a drink and walk down the street, that it's gonna
have unanticipated consequences, I'm guessing.
I don't know, I could be wrong, that's just kind of.
Yeah, I think it should be, I don't want it just on certain days. I think it should be, you know, if we want to confine it to just the downtown area, I have no problem with that. But I would want it to be 7 days a week. Maybe we can limit the times. Maybe we say from like, I don't know, 2 to 2. You know, 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. You know, and after 2 a.m., all the bars are supposed to be closed anyway, and all the restaurants are closed that sell alcohol. Maybe after that time, if you're having an open container, you're...
What they say down here, Megan, is functions held within certain areas of the downtown business area or within other designated commercial areas as approved by the commission during hours approved by resolution, but no later than 2 a.m. and under other conditions imposed by the commission, if any, and sponsored by a bona fide nonprofit civic organization or association, but only where alcoholic beverages are obtained from a participating business, blah, blah, blah. See what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's some of the parameters they put around it. Of course, they're talking about like a nonprofit kind of event, but, and they made them wear a wristband. So, let everybody know they're part of that event.
Yeah. I don't think we need that. But I can see us limiting it to like the downtown area and then expanding it as the needs
We
grow.
should probably
and
start
as-
with that geographical footprint and then see what happens. Like I said, it's easily added to.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
also easily removed. Right.
It's
If it
easier
gets
to
out of
add than it is to
control.
take away. Yeah, it's easier to add than it is to take it away. Because people get in the habit of it, it's hard to do, say, oh, no, you can't do it anymore.
And once you have businesses open specifically for that, then they're gonna
Yeah, I know we have a lot of zones, we have an art overlay and all this kind of stuff, but I still think of this little intense section that's quote downtown. I don't know what to call it because we've got so many names, but I've sort
The
of
intense
thought.
downtown section.
Yeah. But I know what you envision for people walking with alcohol, but I know what he sees walking them down Central Avenue with alcohol and, hey, it's legal, you
That's
can't
true.
stop
That's
me.
true.
But they
Yeah,
can't
but
stop
it's
you.
not legal to be drunk walking down.
Yeah, because I talked to, you didn't hear this, but I made a phone call to Rick Labusek about a week ago. And I asked him about it. And I asked him about open container and how he feels about it. And if it ties his hands in any way. And he says no, that if he has any issues, you can get him for public drunk. And you can still lock them up. You can still pour out their alcohol. And, you know, they're not impervious.
Because most of the time, that's
Police.
where your problems come, is when intoxication occurs.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just too old for this stuff. I mean, I feel very liberal in so many ways, but I don't want us to look like.
Don't want
I
to tear
mean,
the fence down.
Well, we're not New Orleans, we're not Savannah. Not that I don't want to grow it and change some things, but I'd rather grow carefully, or I think that we're gonna, it can look sloppy. I just want to be careful. I'd rather inch into it than just open something that's a big nasty mess.
I'm with you. All right. So I think that gives you some
I'm not
guidance.
against
Does
alcohol.
that give you any guidelines, or do we just change it
Yeah,
all?
yeah, exactly.
William
You're
can
giving me
help you
wonderful
with
feedback. I appreciate the detail that you put into it. It makes our job easier. But if I can just tell you of a couple of other adjustments that we plan to make, and if you can let us know if this is fine. In your wholesale and manufacturing class section, essentially your ordinances state that they're separate regulatory classes, however, they're just subject to the same requirements as the beer, wine, and the package store classes. So really, you don't really need to have those as separate classifications. You definitely need to have it separately defined, but just not a separate class. What we were proposing to do is just to insert, consolidate about 15 of your ordinances that just randomly speak to wholesalers, and to make just one wholesale section that says that they are subject to these additional requirements, and then subdivide that versus just having 15 sections
I'm good
scattered
with that.
through.
I'm good with that. Because other than the microbrewery, we're probably not going to become we're probably not going to become a home of alcohol manufacturing, unless maybe in a small wine-making world or a microbrewery world. I mean, we're not going to have Anheuser-Busch here, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they were put it from across the
The last item I've included in the packet I provided you is the City of Johns Creek Code. They're recently new, so it's a more newer code, meaning that eyes have reviewed it more recently than other codes. And it's a smaller city, so if you want to peek through that and see if there's anything there that you would like for the city, just let us know and we'll make those changes.
Well, I think we've given each other things to work on.
Yes, so Mayor, if I may ask just procedural questions. We've got your kind of feeling, direction on a number of different issues. In terms of format, if we could work with the attorney's office and bring back some sort of outline.
That's, yeah.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
and then with maybe
Okay with
option
that.
A or option B where we have a question. Bring that back, get your feedback on it before, in other words, what we don't want is to throw an ordinance out there and say, what do you think? In other words, we were trying to build this ordinance piece by piece, picking from all the best practices we could. And then once we have some consensus on the various subject areas and options that you like, then we can start the drafting process, and then the public can have plenty of opportunity to comment. But we didn't want to just start throwing ordinances at you. We wanted to get your feedback up front before we began that process, if you follow where we're going with this.
Y'all cool with that?
Sounds good. What about wine tastings? I saw that wine tastings was in here. Do we want to do wine tastings?
That is an issue that has come up in other forums, that, there are people that, have those types of businesses and it's not addressed at this point.
So in the ordinance that I see that's in this packet, it talks about, it has to be for educational purposes. It's sort of like Arches, and they're doing their beer tastings. It has to be for education. You gotta give the tours. I don't know how people feel. I think it should be in there. I think we should have,
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll get some sample ordinances on that too.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so just to summarize then, basically, we've kind of gotten the highlights of your thinking. We're gonna bring you back something in some sort of chart form. Any options that, where it may not be clear, or you were talking about various ways to go. Bring that back, let you look at it, give your feedback on it. And then once we work our way forward that way, and you all are satisfied we have clear direction, then we can begin the drafting process and go through the normal ordinance procedures the way we typically do.
I'm sorry, I have a headache again, but, are we incorporating the areas that we're touching on that are different into what we already have? And I understand we're consolidating some things that are cumbersome, or maybe they're saying the same things in different categories. I get all that, but, are we starting over?
I don't think we're.
Well, my understanding, based on what you said tonight and what William said, is that my plan is to create a chart that touches these specific items that were addressed tonight, to extract the provisions of your ordinances that touch those items, and to give you proposed ordinances, proposed language, and examples of language in differing jurisdictions. I know that you told me tonight multiple cities specific to specific items that you think would be favorable for Hapeville, so I plan to extract those and then to get William to create a chart that addresses just the items that you discussed tonight. And then after that process is completed, to insert those into the revised ordinance, and then at that point, consolidate and simplify the redundancy.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're not starting all over from scratch.
You got it.
And along with that was the windows, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I came late on that.
I know this might be a little unusual question, but in that, when you do this, can you sort of give a recap of how the consolidation will look like? Put the requirements up front, show how that might change a little. Am I making any sense? No.
Yeah, well, you are making sense. It
It's okay.
somewhat mirrors what you said earlier.
Yeah.
You
Just-
mentioned, like having general application
Applications
requirements.
and sort of show which sections won't be there anymore, that these will be, when you put this up front, then it eliminates these sections down here.
Well, I
But-
didn't plan to do that initially. Do you want me to include that?
If you could, it makes it easier for me to read,
Okay.
and it might make it easier for everybody to understand. Part of the trouble is, because you're always having to go back to the old one and the new one and stuff, and I know that's because this is codified and we put in there what's changing.
Okay.
Is that a lot more time consuming to do?
There's so much redundancy, it would definitely take longer to address these specific points that you've addressed tonight if we go through and illustrate to you the areas that are redundant and that we plan to reduce. It's your call.
What's up to
Give
y'all?
us the instruction and we'll facilitate that.
Always thinking about money.
I know, that's how I see it.
Well, it's definitely cheaper to focus
I mean,
on the
cheaper.
points that you addressed
That
tonight.
accomplishes.
Okay, then let's just do that.
Let's do that.
I'll read from there and go.
And then I think
Then
by
the
the
next
time,
step will be that.
by the time we get down to the end, we should probably have a red line version that'll show us what's been stricken from,
Yes, everything we do.
all the
with ordinance
redundancies
will
will
be
be, by the time we have something to vote on, we'll probably see a red line version, which will answer your
Questions, okay.
concerns.
redlined. Okay.
Probably be a red line through me by then.
So again, to summarize, Mr. Mayor, what I'm hearing is a four-step process. We're going to organize everything by chart. We're going to present the options within the charts. We're going to clarify direction with you all. And then, once we have some consensus on the pieces, then we'll start the drafting process.
10-4. Is that cool?
Sounds good to me.
Everybody good?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, yeah, I'm assuming that staff has latitude on how long this takes, or do you want to give specific
Well,
direction?
I think
the ultimate goal,
Let's get it done by
I'd like to get it done before September 30th, if that's possible. Because that's when the other expires. We can always extend them again if we need to.
Right. So the goal
I mean,
is
this
to
has been-
get it ready before the other things you put out in place expire.
This has been on the radar for a while.
Yes.
So we don't have to rush. I don't want to rush and make mistakes, but I don't want it to keep sitting. Personally, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't want to keep
It's
sitting.
not too fast, but not too slow.
Something like that.
Just right in the middle.
Just the right.
Goldilocks. So on things like the open container that we're not even in agreement on, this is just like best practices and we're still gonna make further decisions because we didn't make a decision
No,
tonight.
no, we
Right.
weren't. The intent was not to make a decision tonight. The intent,
Well, we're good
I
at
think
that.
tonight's been very fruitful.
The intent is to give us something to work with.
Because
Okay.
we talked about a lot of areas that need attention, and I think we've given them their direction. All right. Anything else while we're in this area? Right, at this time, I would open the floor to public comments. Prefer they be germane to the discussion we had tonight, since we don't have anything else on the agenda. Mr. Whitaker.
Hey, Scott Whitaker, 3347 North Whitney Avenue. Just one item, I appreciate, you're right, this is something that's been overdue.
Pick up the mic.
While you're is it on?
That's
Yes.
There we go. While you're considering streamlining the code, I would like to submit respectfully that one of the things you consider is eliminating the alcohol review board from the process. Open records of City of Hapeville will show that since its inception, the alcohol review board has renewed or approved 170 different applications, having in its entire life turned down one application that stuck for Mr. Josh Patton, and that's led to 4 lawsuits. The ARB is not really, I'm not sure what the function is, they can ensure compliance, but they're not weeding anybody out. You've weeded out one person.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Any other comments on my right? My left? Yes, Carol. You're next, Frank.
We're gonna leave it on everybody.
Yes, it's just not ready yet. Carol C. 3333 Myrtle Street. A lot of good work, because our ordinance is just sort of so convoluted and redundant. My only request was, I wish you would rethink taking the current one, redlining it with all these changes is gonna be, take a lot more time and be way more convoluted to read. Why not, you've got other cities with good ordinances, why not just draft a whole new ordinance, keeping the pieces from ours, and just bring that before to be reviewed? Because there's so much convoluted in the old stuff that we don't care about. And there's so much new we need, like microbrewery and open containers. I think it'd be a lot easier for everyone to follow, to just bring forth a new ordinance and let us look at that. So I wish you'd really think about that. I think there's a lot less time on the attorney and everything too, and easier for everyone to follow. That's just my suggestion.
Point taken.
Thank you.
And I actually hope that's what we do after we get the red line version back, is take that and make a new ordinance, so it will be easier to understand.
All right, then you've spent all the money to redline.
Frank Faulkner, 3100 Springdale Road. As a new member of the ARB, I'd like to take exception to Mr. Whitaker's comment. Yes, as far as I know, we try to do a good job. We look at everything. Eliminating the ARB would be throwing then all of the things that the ARB is supposed to be doing back on city council. Just as if you eliminated the planning board, everything would come back to you. If we eliminated any other board, they would all come back to city council. Someplace along the line, it's not eliminating the board, but making sure the board does the job that they're tasked with. So that as a board member, we can provide information to you, condensed, to make your decision. I agree wholeheartedly that we have a horrendously convoluted set of regulations now to deal with. And simplifying them would be a great step in the right direction for every board member to be able to make an intelligent decision and judgment or recommendation to you all. So, let me say hurrah for simplifying the codes, and we'll take it from there.
Point taken. Thank you, sir. Any other comments on my left? Ms. Murphy?
I tried to take notes. And I have 2% left. Laura Murphy, 201 Colorado. You were talking about some different things on sidewalks and fencing and things like that. Those are requirements by Fulton County. If Fulton County restaurants, you have an alcohol license, they will require you to fence in the area. So make sure that you understand that you're not dealing with just you. State law also, you cannot transfer a state license. So if you're talking about transferring a city license, that's not going to work because the state license.
I was speaking more to the refund of unused money than I was transferring. But
Okay.
just because it seems unfair to
Well, it
double
does.
dip.
And I think that's honorable that you would give that back. As far as someone being able to have champagne at a function, I think you could do somewhat of a caterer's license, but the host pays for the alcohol because it is being given away. It shouldn't apply to any license. If someone rents a building to have a party that doesn't already hold a liquor license, the caterer's license, I guess you could call it a caterer's license, or a host license, the host could then pay for the alcohol to give to the guest. It's not, it wouldn't be sold. As far as Savannah and open containers, right now our ordinance states that you have to have glass to drink out of. If you open this up to the events, then the people could pour it into a plastic glass going out of the building. But still required that the restaurants use glass to serve their alcohol in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments on all that? There being none, I'll entertain a motion that we, Mayor Council comments. So, Council, anybody have anything to say? Last time we met, I told you that Edward Druckenmiller, a good friend of mine's wife, passed away while they were on vacation, and his father died yesterday. So keep the Druckenmiller family in your thoughts and prayers if you're thinking and praying. His funeral visitation is Friday night
Patterson.
Patterson on Peachtree Street, and the funeral is Saturday at 11 a.m. at Peachtree United Methodist Church on Peachtree Street downtown. So just do keep them in your thoughts. That's a double whammy for that family. Anybody else have anything? All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for personnel and legal matters.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second discussion. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. I'll entertain a motion to recess.
So moved.
Motion to recess, second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, we stand in recess. Thank you for coming out, ladies and gentlemen.